I feel like I've been starting all of my videos from this very spot, but to be really honest with you, this is where my mornings begin, with me sitting on the couch having breakfast and a cup of tea. Well, today I'm not actually having a cup of tea. Instead, I have a paracetamol drink. As you can probably tell, I still have a little bit of a cold. I don't know what kind of cold this is because it has been going on for almost 2 weeks. It started with me not feeling well for a few days. Then I was perfectly fine for like 3 days. I went back to working out and going out. And then this cold returned with a vengeance. It's like, it was really hard for me to kick this, and I'm still struggling a little bit, although I'm feeling a lot better. So we're back on the couch with Pi sleeping on my feet. He's already been on his first walk. He's had his breakfast, so now he's napping. And if you see the tripod slightly moving, it's because he is right underneath you. Anyway, today I have a really fun video planned. Today we're going to be doing an updated everyday fine jewelry collection video, which, as you can probably tell from the title, it's not going to be a comprehensive jewelry collection. Instead, we'll be focusing on the pieces that I reach for on a regular basis, which is a very limited curated collection because, as you know, my life and also my style have changed quite a bit in the past couple of years, and I really don't wear as much jewelry as I used to, not to mention that my collection overall really hasn't changed that much in the past year. But I recently went through my deposit box. I put some pieces in there that I no longer reach for and I did not want to have at home, and then I pulled out a couple of new pieces which you might have not seen me wear at all, or at least not in a while, which I wanted to give you an update on. I also pulled out the Rolex Submariner, which I've had for about 6 or 7 years, so I can definitely share with you my updated thoughts and review. Obviously, it is an incredibly hard to get and popular watch, which I kind of see why that is, but I want to share with you my thoughts on that piece. And then at the end of this video, if we have the time, I would also love to discuss some of the pieces that I am still eyeing and would consider adding to my collection at one point down the line. But believe it or not, none of these pieces I'm going to pick up directly from the store. Instead, I would love to get them pre-loved, because there's one thing for sure: fine jewelry, especially designer fine jewelry, is not a good investment to park your money in. They're great if you're going to use and wear them as an investment into your wardrobe, but if you're hoping to get a return on your investment, I would really not advise you to put your money into designer fine jewelry, because these pieces just simply don't hold their value. So we are going to have a discussion about that at the end. But without further ado, if you'd like to see my current everyday jewelry collection, the pieces that I reach for time and time again, and the ones that I have not been reaching for, but I would like to make a conscious effort to do so, then make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe down below if you haven't done so yet, and keep on watching. And I am back. It's only been a couple of seconds for you, but it's actually been a few days for me. It was way too premature for me to try to film an entire video. When I filmed the intro, I was still too congested, but I am feeling a lot better today. So I thought I would give it another try, and I actually have my tray of jewelry here with me that I wanted to share with you. We're not going to be talking about all of these pieces because you have heard me go on and on and on about most of these things. I just wanted to point out some that I still love and use, and I would also love to put on your radar. And there's actually a piece missing from here that's on my nightstand, but I will make sure to include, I'll either go grab it or I will include some B-roll here for you to see. So let me see where we should begin. Let me start with the pieces that you have already heard me talk about before, but these are things that I reach for time and time again. And if I had to restart my fine jewelry collection, these are definitely the pieces that I would buy first, starting with my Boucheron Quatre ring. This is by far one of my most used, not only pieces of jewelry, but my most worn luxury piece across the board. It is definitely something that I am getting my money's worth out of. So Boucheron is a heritage fine jewelry maker. They are a French brand. Maybe it's a brand that I should do a deep dive on. I'm not sure how many of you would be interested in seeing that video and hearing more about the brand, but if you are, let me know in the comment section and I can definitely do a deep dive for you, because Boucheron actually they were one of the very first fine slash high jewelry brands out there. They have been around for hundreds of years, but they are not nearly as well known and as widely recognized as a brand like Cartier or Van Cleef. Anyway, it's definitely a brand that we could talk a lot about, and their most contemporary range is their so-called Quatre range, which actually features 4 different textures and colors, each one inspired by Parisian architecture, which, if you know me, you know that I am a big fan of architecture. Not necessarily French and Parisian architecture, but I do love the fact that they draw inspiration from their heritage and the fact that they are a French brand. And if you go to Boucheron, they can tell you exactly what each element and what each texture is inspired by. So on my ring, the Quatre ring comes in several different widths and several different colors, but I have the classic Quatre ring in the classic color combination, which features 1 band of yellow gold, 1 band with pavé diamonds, 1 band of little brown ceramics, which I always thought was black, but then I was told that it's actually chocolate brown. But to be really honest, it kind of looks black, which is what I love about it. And then you have a really simple rose gold band. And as I mentioned, each layer or texture has its own inspiration. So for example, the ceramic squares pay tribute to historic streets that were covered in cobblestones in Paris. The pavé band is inspired by the night sky in Paris and the different lights of Paris. So it is definitely a really well thought out and unique piece. But what I love about it is that it really goes with anything and everything. This is one of those pieces that you can wear with a sweat for running errands, to kind of dress up your outfit, or just to edit a little bit of a luxurious twist, but it's something that you could even wear to a formal event. So if you are looking for a one and done piece, something that you don't have to stack, you don't have to think about, you can just put it on and it will make a statement without going overboard, I think this is an incredible everyday wearable piece to invest in. The proof is in the pudding. This is something that I wear almost every single day, and I really don't think you can go wrong with it. It comes in a ton of different colors, a ton of different textures. If you want something a little bit more colorful, they also have seasonal colors for the ceramic band. They've done it in blue, in red, in green, but chocolate brown is my personal favorite. And then it also comes in a white gold variation in the classic line that's always around. But I love the fact that they not only combine different colors and textures, but also different shades of gold, because it makes it easier for you to mix and match your metals. So if you're looking for a contemporary piece, something that's just really wearable and is a no-brainer, this I don't think you can go wrong with. And this is of course a little bit more of a pricey piece because it features a pavé band, but if you don't want to spend quite as much money on your first piece from Boucheron, you can also find this without diamonds. But I do love that little bit of sparkle that the diamond band adds to this stack. And also if you're looking for a wedding band or something that you know you're going to wear for a long time, this I think is an incredible piece. And speaking of a little bit of sparkle, this next ring, which is again by far one of my most used and most loved rings from Hermes, believe it or not. You know that I'm a big fan of Hermes's fine jewelry. I do think that similar to Boucheron, their fine jewelry métier is extremely underrated and underestimated, especially considering the designs, the quality, and the really beautifully thought out details that you get from this house. Now, this is definitely not an underrated piece. It is one of their most iconic and most classic pieces, but believe it or not, it's actually taken me years to add to my collection. I was definitely not the biggest fan of this design at first. It's taken some time for it to grow on me, but I am so glad to have it in my collection now, which is the rose gold Dunk ring. So this collection is inspired by the brand's iconic Dunk detail, which is something that you'll be familiar with. Of course, I still have my rose gold Dunk ring, which is inspired by anchor chains to be exact. And it is one of the first motifs that was introduced as part of the Hermes fine jewelry collection. Going back to the Dunk, this is a more contemporary, more modern take on the Dunk motif, with the H detail being added to the mix. I think it is a really fun and cool take on it, and I do like the fact that it features some diamonds, which, believe it or not, add a lot more sparkle to a stack than you would think. And what makes this ring really easy to wear, similar to the Boucheron one, is that it's perfectly uniform. If you look at some of my other Hermes rings, so for example my Gallop ring, which I do love, I have not been wearing it quite as much, I do love this, but for example this, regardless of the size, you would have a hard time stacking with other pieces because it's not a uniform shape. Whereas when it comes to the Dunk ring, as you can tell, it is perfectly uniform. It is a perfect circle. So if you already have some rings in your collection that you're looking to stack, perhaps add a little bit of sparkle to, this would be a great investment to make. And if you're not a fan of the H, or maybe some days you are, and other days you're not, you can really easily twist it around depending on how you're going to style it. So I do think that it is just a great staple to have in your collection. However, I would not necessarily get this from Hermes directly. This goes for all of their pieces of jewelry. Hermes jewelry does not hold its value, so you can actually find most of the pieces that I own from Hermes for a fraction of the price on the pre-loved market. So unless you are really trying to get a bag and really boost your profile to get a bag, I would actually get Hermes pieces of jewelry on the pre-loved market, because you can save thousands and thousands of dollars, and the money you save you can put towards another piece to boost your profile. But I think Hermes jewelry and fine jewelry designer, fine jewelry across the board, is something that is good to try to get pre-loved, because you know these pieces will not wear. Most of these are made of solid precious metals, so you know you don't really have to worry about the integrity of these pieces. They will last, they are very easy to clean, and they don't hold their value, so you can save thousands and thousands of dollars. However, of course, authenticity is always an issue, which is why I'm so excited that a portion of today's video is kindly being sponsored by Legit Grails. You may remember that I have worked with Legit Grails before, and I am so happy to be working with them again, because they are one of the easiest and most reliable ways to have your luxury pieces authenticated, really from the comfort of your home in as little as 30 minutes. They offer authentication on over 250 brands, and unlike other services that specialize in bags or SLGs, you can actually have anything and everything from luxury brands authenticated by Legit Grails, from clothing through fine jewelry all the way to bags and more serious timepieces, which I do really appreciate. And their experts have an over 99% accuracy rate, which they are able to provide such a reliable service because of their so-called hybrid model, which means that their authentication combines AI technology with an expert human touch. So they basically bring you the best of both worlds, just to ensure that no detail goes missed, because luxury is in the details. So they make sure that the pieces that you have authenticated are looked at from every single angle, and all you have to do is take some pictures, upload them to their site. They actually have very specific guides on what details they need pictures of, and you can choose to have your pieces authenticated in as little as 30 minutes. And their prices start at $25 for a luxury brand like Hermes, which I do think is really reasonable. Not to mention that they have given us a 15% off discount code, which I will make sure to put up on the screen here, which of course you can take advantage of. And obviously the price goes up if you want to have pieces authenticated quicker, but I do think it is a fair price to pay for just getting a peace of mind. I do completely understand that buying things outside of the boutique, especially more pricey pieces like fine jewelry, watches, and bags, can be quite nerve-wracking. And of course, I always want you to do your own due diligence and do your research on where you're sourcing your pieces from. But it's great to have a service like Legit Grails that can put your mind at ease and just give you a final seal of approval. Anyway, these were the two rings that I wanted to share with you. And I also pulled out my Just Un Clou ring from Cartier, believe it or not, from my deposit box. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you know that I'm not the biggest fan of the Love and Just Un Clou range from Cartier. Not because I think there's anything wrong with the design. I just do think that they become kind of overdone and, dare I say, basic at this point, even though I still own pieces from both collections. So I pulled out my white gold Justin Clear ring to maybe play around with it. I actually own the Justin Clear ring in both white gold and rose gold. In rose gold, I have it in a smaller size, and then the white gold version is slightly bigger. So I am trying to take advantage of the white gold one. I thought about maybe stacking it with my Boucheron ring. I'll give it a try. I'm not sure if it's going to work. Maybe I'll put in some pictures here for you and I'll let you know what I thought. It could go either way, or I could also stack it with something like my Ashtang ring, although I don't see these two brands mixing that well. But if you have things like the Ashtang ring and you're looking to stack it with something, as I mentioned, this is just an amazing stacking piece. Personally, you know that I usually stack my Ashtang ring with my Shandong ring from Hermes. So you not only repeat the same motif, but you also have, you know, two pieces from the same brand, which I think works quite beautifully. So I'll let you know how I get on with the Justin Clear ring. I have to play around with it, but it might go back in the deposit box. And who knows, maybe one day you'll see me with a love bracelet again. I thought about giving it another go, but I really just cannot do it. Speaking of which, and speaking of basic pieces, another piece that I promised I would review today is the Rolex Submariner, which I've had for about 6 or 7 years. I got this directly from the store in New York. This was the first more serious watch that I ever looked at. I was actually looking for just the original oyster steel version of this, which is just basic stainless steel, or Rolex is stainless steel, but that is an impossible watch to get. I mean, this is impossible to get at this point too, but back then I had no idea how difficult it was. But they very kindly offered me this watch without purchasing anything else, because Rolex, similar to Hermes, they have a scarcity game that they like to play, or that's part of their marketing strategy. Call it what you will. Long story short, you cannot walk into Rolex and ask for one of their more popular watches, and their two most popular watches are the Submariner and the Daytona, especially the Submariner in oyster steel, so in full stainless steel, because it is significantly less expensive than their two-tone or their solid gold watches, which means that there are a lot more people out there who are looking for these. Personally, I would not suggest that you buy a Submariner, or this is actually the Submariner date, which means that there is a little date on the face of the watch. I should probably backtrack. So when it comes to the Submariner, there are two different variations of it. You have the original Submariner, which doesn't feature a date, and then you have the Submariner date, which does. Now, when it comes to the Submariner, it is only available in stainless steel, meaning that you will not find a Submariner without the date in two-tone or in solid gold at this point. But you can find a stainless steel both with a date or without. So the version that I have is the Submariner date, because of the date, which the two-tone and the solid gold version are only available with the date mechanism being in there. And the Submariner is an iconic watch. It has been around since 1953, I believe, and it was one of the very first professional watches that Rolex ever came out with. It was specially designed for divers, and if I'm not mistaken, it's actually the watch that they used to set a standard for diving watches. So all the watches that claim to be a proper professional diving watch have to have similar features as the Submariner, but I think that it's not a watch that many people actually wear for diving at this point. What I think a lot of people appreciate about this watch is that it goes with anything and everything, and it is fully waterproof. Now, at this point, it is kind of a status symbol, you know, having one of these watches. I remember having dinner with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago in the financial district in Amsterdam, which is of course not the same as the financial district in New York, but that's kind of the closest thing I could compare it to. And basically every other person was wearing this same watch in stainless steel, or a dupe, or something that was inspired by this. So it is an extremely common and just beloved watch design, which I understand it does go with most things, and it is waterproof, so it's not something you have to worry about. The oyster steel is extremely hard wearing, and they also say that the ceramic bezel is virtually scratch resistant, which I have to say has been my experience as well. But to me at this point, it feels just a little bit too overdone, so it's definitely not the watch that I would pick up at this point, but it is still a nice design. The reason I opted for the two-tone is because I didn't realize that these watches were so hard to get, and when I was offered this, I was like, okay, well, I guess I can get this now, and if I love it, I can get the stainless steel version down the line, which in hindsight, I'm actually kind of glad that I ended up with this version, not the stainless steel, because at least this is a little bit more special. And I'm also happy that I was not offered a solid gold version, because that would be just way too much for me. I think a Rolex watch in solid gold, as beautiful as they are definitely they make an impact, and I don't think it's always the right impact or the kind of impact that I want to be making. So it is a nice compromise, and I do prefer this to just the basic stainless steel model. Now you have to keep in mind that there is a big price difference. So I think these watches range between 9,500 euros and 42,000 euros, depending on what material you pick them up in. And by the way, that is the retail price. That's not the price on the pre-loved market, because obviously these watches are so hard to get. If you get a contemporary watch, not a vintage one, it's going to set you back a lot more money on the pre-loved market. But if you're able to get one directly from the store, it ranges between $95,000 and $42,000. So it is quite a large range. And the price difference between this and the stainless steel, I think this one is almost or just about double the price. Now, one thing that I have to point out that I actually really appreciate about this watch specifically is the black face and the black bezel, because this watch is also available in navy, which I really do not like. So, you know, I said at the beginning that it's not a watch that I would buy again, but in my opinion, it is the best watch to buy from the Submariner range, because it is a little bit more unique than the stainless steel Submariner because of the two-tone finish, but it's not quite as overwhelming as the solid gold version would be. And I like the fact that the face is black and not navy. So overall, I'm as happy as one can be with the Submariner. It is my favorite piece from the collection and the lineup, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but it is 41 millimeters, so it is definitely a larger watch, and I like how loose it is on my wrist. I could definitely make it smaller, but I want these watches to be a little bit more casual and simple, and I want there to be a little bit of a movement. It is quite a heavy watch, not only in terms of look, but also in terms of feel. It is definitely quite substantial, and I do think that the modern watches are heavier than vintage watches are, so that's something you have to keep in mind if you're going to get one of these pieces on the pre-loved market. Long story short, I understand the appeal. It is an easy wearable watch, something you don't have to worry about, but I think the look at this point is just a little bit... I feel like when you're paying so much money for a watch, I would want something that is a little bit more special and unique, but that is just me. Let me know what you think in the comment section. But if you are looking for a Submariner, if it's something that's been on your radar for a while, or if it's been on your wish list, I do think that the two-tone version with the black face is the best, most aesthetically pleasing one that money can buy. And it is also the one that I see the least often. I always see either the stainless steel version, or if it's not in stainless steel, most people will have it in solid gold, which is nice, but it definitely requires a certain personality and a certain lifestyle to be able to pull that off. But I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section and what your favorite watch is, because I'm definitely looking to buy maybe another watch next year. As I mentioned, I do love the Cartier Crash. That's a watch that I really like the look of, but I would not pay a crazy amount of money for it, which right now it's such a trendy, hyped watch that on the pre-loved market, it will definitely set you back a pretty penny. So that's not necessarily the watch that I would go for. I mean, if I found it at the right price, in the right color, in the right condition, I wouldn't immediately turn it down. But it's definitely not a priority. So I'm still looking. If I see anything, I will let you know. And then 2 rings that I'm looking to buy. One of them is something that I actually bought earlier this year, which is the Cartier Trinity ring. I bought it just in white gold and ceramic without diamonds. I ended up returning it because, as I told you guys, I did feel like there was something missing, and I think it is what was missing was a little bit of a sparkle. So I would like to pick it up in the pavé version, but you can find it at such amazing prices on the pre-loved market that I'm just going to wait until one pops up in the right size for me, which I would like to get it in a smaller size so I can wear it as a pinky ring. But after seeing how much it costs on the pre-loved market, I just cannot justify getting it directly from the store because the price difference is insane. So that's something that I am eyeing. And then another piece that's still on my radar is a Coco Crush piece. I'm not sure if I would go for a ring or a bracelet. Now, what's interesting about that collection is that it really doesn't come up on the pre-loved market that often, but when it does, again, you can save a ton of money on them. So whether it's a bracelet or a ring that I end up with, I think it will depend on what I find first. But this actually brings us to the end of today's video on my current fine jewelry collection. So these are the 3-4 pieces that I'm trying to, well, 2 pieces that I have been wearing and I would not want to be without. And then the Justin Clear ring and the Rolex Submariner are 2 pieces that I am trying to take more advantage of, because what's the point of them just sitting in a deposit box collecting dust? But yeah, these are the pieces that I'm currently playing around with. I really hope you enjoyed it and you got something out of it. And if you would like to try legit grails, I will make sure to link all the details in the info box for you. They are honestly the easiest and most reliable way to have your pieces authenticated from the comfort of your home and really without breaking the bank, because I do think that their prices are really reasonable for the peace of mind that they're able to provide. So a big thank you to Legit Grails for working with me on a portion of today's video, and an even bigger thank you to you for being here and watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't done so yet. And let me know what video you would like to see from me next. I cannot wait to hear from you in the comment section. Also, let me know about your recent favorites when it comes to fine jewelry. Let me know if there are any pieces that you would like me to do a more in-depth review on. If you have any questions, you can always find me in the comment section. So let's continue the conversation down there. And I will see you back here with a new video really, really soon.